why do I even bother reading other reviews before I make my own? Okay, before I open that can of worms, let's get to the game itself first. For those of you who have not heard of it, Absolver is a multiplayer online combat game with some light action-adventure elements from new developer Slowclap. Now, right away, everyone has started comparing this game to Dark Souls, and I know that is the comparison du jour for the modern game review sect. But let me just nip that shit right in the bud right now. If you expected Dark Souls from Absolver, you are going to be disappointed almost instantly. While you can clearly see a thematic similarity with the Souls franchised decaying world aesthetic, and terms like persistent open world multiplayer could lead you to believe you might be in for yet another Dark Souls experience. This game is first and foremost a fighting game. Every other element of the game, everything, the PvE, fighting NPCs, taking on actual players in the 1v1s, the story, the lore, the gear, everything. Every bit of it is designed to improve upon and enhance the fighting game experience, which is quite frankly incredible. The deck system allows you to take 4 different styles and dozens upon dozens of moves for each one, combine them together to develop a totally new and unique fighting style that you can compete with against other players who are doing the exact same thing. Alternately, you could pit your skills against the PvE content, sparse admittedly though it may be, by exploring the world, fighting dozens upon dozens of Lost Prospect NPCs, and facing a few bosses who have unique lore told through their own cutscenes. You also have access to different weapons, all of which come with their own unique fighting styles that you can build again yourself, which you then can combine with your choice of 2 different powers out of a series of many choices, adding further diversity to your fighting style, making every interaction with other players and even NPCs at least a little tense, never knowing exactly what's going to come out at you. Like most fighting games, I definitely preferred playing this with a controller, though I found it difficult actually using my Steam controller. I'm sure there's a way to set it up better, but none of my usual methods seemed to change the fact that I felt like I was missing more inputs than were necessary due to the nature of a touchpad rather than a physical joystick, which I'm sure the sweaty fingers that I get didn't help much. Regardless, I actually found keyboard and mouse wasn't completely unpleasant to play with. And I've heard repeated conversations about how the keyboard and mouse is actually some people's preferred way of playing. Now, for all the praise I just heaped upon the game's combat mechanics, it does come with its own unique set of weaknesses, given that the PvP is its focus. For example, like most fighting games that are out these days, they opted for the P2P system, which causes a lot of instability and lag when you're fighting, and that's kind of a problem when many of the styles require split-second reaction to your enemy's moves. That's a little difficult when you see half the moves coming at you only when it's too late to react to them. The animation will just suddenly load with an elbow half an inch away from redecorating your face. When you pair that with a glaring lack of anti-cheat technology in any way, shape, or form, it does make it a little difficult to defend the game being a PvP fighting game first and foremost whenever people start complaining about the lack of single-player PvE content to the game. And since we're back to this, my fellow opinionated assholes who think our reviews are worth something to the world, do a little fucking research. I'm not saying there's no value into diving into a game completely blind the first time, but before you actually review the game, make sure that you have a firm grasp on what the game is, what it promises to be, and what you want it to be. Because noting whether or not a game lives up to the promises it's given is important, you wanting something out of a game that the developers never promised you should be irrelevant to how you score that game. I mean, Rancor, fucking preserve me. Claiming a PvP fighting game has no content or low content because there's very little to the PvE aspect of it that is meant to be for flavor and fun is about as meaningful of a criticism as complaining that Street Fighter didn't have more selections of cars to beat up. Whew. Okay, with that said, the developers have made a point of saying they intend to expand upon PvE content. It simply isn't their focus because the focus has always been the fighting game first and foremost. Their immediate concerns are adding more game modes, new weapons, and even new fighting styles. In the couple of weeks since release, they've been very on the ball in terms of updates and patch notes. already giving us a stability update, and even acknowledging that that update caused more problems for a select few players. They've been owning up to their mistakes, they charged a fair price for their game, and they seem really dedicated to making this the best possible game they can make it. While I do still have some lingering concerns, I've managed to spend at least 60 hours in game, and I have no intention of stopping anytime soon. The game is fun, when the servers are working well enough for you to play it. As much as I personally have loved the game, and I'm going to be sticking with it, this is definitely a niche buy. It's well worth the $30 price tag if you're into this kind of nuanced, customizable martial arts style gameplay, but the game's unrepentant focus on player versus player combat will definitely drive away anyone who isn't already a big fan of fighting games. However, if a deeply nuanced fighting game, flavored with elements of exploration in an open online world, decaying yet filled with mystery, sounds like your scene, the Absolver mask may fit you just fine.